Good afternoon or good morning, Park West students. Um, I want to go over a few things right now before you go on to your questions on the Google Class form. I want to talk about grades and credits. Notice I have a picture of a balance beam, and this balance beam is trying to communicate to you that you have to balance both things in my class. You have to balance grade and you have to balance credits. They're not the same thing. Let me explain. Um, for a grade, to get your 5 credits or to get any credit in my class, all you need is a D minus or higher, okay, in order to get your credits, to cash them in. I think I have Mr. Lopez bringing my espresso here, so let me pause this video. Okay, so where was I? I got my espresso right here. Mr. Lopez made me a brand new espresso drink here after school. Delicious. Oh man, that's good. So, to get credit in my class, you need a D minus or higher. To get for your credits, you need stamps. Okay? You need stamps. Forgive my chicken scratch here. Writing with my finger on the smart board, my laptop here, so it might be a little funky. But so credits are your stamps. Grade. Well, how do you get a D minus or higher in this class? Well, there's 3 categories that make up your grade. Let's talk about that right now. Let's talk about the 3 categories. Assignments, quizzes, and tests, like on your handout that I gave you. Assignments are 50% of your grade. Quizzes are 20% of your grade. Notice your handout in front of you has that. And then tests are 30% of your grade. Tests I usually give maybe once a month. Yeah, about once a month. So you probably get 2 or 3 tests before the quarter ends. Quizzes, you get a quiz every Friday, okay? And notice assignments are 50% of your grade. So if you just put in the work, turn in every assignment I give you, put the blood, sweat, and tears into this class, it's almost guaranteed you're going to pass my class. Because notice your assignments are 50% of your grade. Now, those of you who have math anxiety or test anxiety and tend to not perform well on quizzes or tests in any class, some people have that anxiety when they take quizzes or tests. If you're one of those persons, you can actually, let's say you fail a quiz or test, you can actually retake a quiz or a test. You can retake them. You can retake a quiz. Let's say on quiz 1 coming up next week. On quiz 1, let's say you get a 50%, which is an F. You can retake any quiz in my class as long as you're finished with every assignment related to that quiz. So there will be assignments that are related to certain quizzes. You have to finish every assignment in order for you to retake. So if you want to retake, you have to finish every assignment up till that quiz. So you have to finish every assignment, okay? You can't just retake a quiz willy-nilly. You have to finish every assignment up to that quiz before you retake it. And whatever your new score is, I just replace the old score with your brand new score because you put in the work, you've demonstrated you understand the material, and we go from there. Tests, however, you can retake tests, but they are graded differently. Let's say on test 1, that'll come up later in the class. One second here. Let's say on test 1, you get let me get this eraser going here. Okay, so let's say on test 1, let's say you get a 40% on your first test. You can retake the test if you finished every assignment up to that test, and every quiz up to that test. If you finished all of that, you can retake the test. However, your new grade, let's say your new grade on the test after you retook it was 80%. What I do for your final grade is I take the new grade plus the old grade, which would be your 40%, and I take the average of them both. So if I add up, remember taking the average, if I add up the old score with the new score, 80 plus 40 is be 120. And then I divide 120 by 2, that's going to be 60. So your final grade on that test would be a 60%, not a 40%. So the moral of the story is if you're going to fail a test, make sure you get the highest F you can, because notice this 40% kind of brought it down low. Your retake was an 80, your original failed grade was a 40. So your final grade's a 60. So get a high F if you plan on failing my classes, or failing my tests rather, and then retaking them. So take my test seriously. That's all to say. Take my test seriously. So that's grades. Grades are comprised of 3 categories: assignments, quizzes, and tests. So grades on the one hand, you need a D- or higher. Credits on the other. Let's talk about credits now. Credits are based on your productivity. Every day when you walk into class, you'll have a warm-up ready to greet you every single day. And what I want to do is talk about what this stamp sheet means. So every day you walk in, the first stamp, on time, means you're not only on time, but you've started your warm-up and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The second stamp is right before you leave my class. You've been productive, you've been following directions, you've been doing everything you're supposed to be doing. You get your second stamp of the day. So 2 stamps per day. Tuesday, 2 stamps. Wednesday, 2 stamps. Thursday, Friday, so you should be having 10 stamps per week, notice. The second stamp, the productivity stamp, is just your general productivity. You're following directions, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The first stamp is being on time and doing your warm-up. How do you lose stamps? Well, before I even get into how do you lose stamps, let's talk about how stamps translate into credits. Notice there's about every quarter is about 40 days, okay? And 40 days, if you earn 2 stamps per day, that's 80 stamps, right? So 80 stamps is equal to 5 credits, okay? So let's go 80 stamps equals 5 credits. Once you get 5 credits in a class, again, excuse my chicken scratcher right in here. Once you get 5 credits in 80 stamps, you get 5 credits in a class, so long as you have a D- or higher. You can have 100,000 stamps, but if you have a lower than a D-, you don't get any credit. So 80 stamps is 5 credits, which means if I take 80 divided by 5, that means every 16 stamps is equal to 1 credit in my class, you see. So the beauty of this sheet here at Park West, these stamp sheets, is that you can figure out how many credits you have in any class at any given time in the life of the class. So for instance, let me give you an example. Let's say you have, so let's say right here we have 10 stamps here. Okay, this is 10 stamps. So how many credits would this person have with 10 stamps? What we'll do is we'll take 10 divided by 16, you see. Sorry about that. So let's get back. So 10 divided by 60. At 10 divided by 16 rather, I get 0.625 credits. So you don't even have 1 credit yet. We're a little bit more than half a credit, okay? So all you got to do is count your stamps and you can figure out how many credits you have. Let's say down the line you have 50 stamps later on in the quarter, okay? 50 stamps. And you want to know how many credits you have. All you do is take 50 and divide it by how many stamps is 1 credit, which is 16. Okay, so 16 stamps. So 50 divided by 16 is 3.125. So about 3.1 credits. So now, you're at Park West High School, which means it's possible for you to earn partial credit in the class. In other words, at the end of this quarter, it might be the case that you won't have 80 stamps. Okay? You might not have 80 stamps. Well, the good news is if you have a passing grade, which is a D minus or higher, remember, D minus or higher, I'll put greater than a D minus. There's a greater than symbol. If you have greater than a D minus or of a grade, I'll give you partial credit. You've earned some credit. So let's say you had 50 stamps by the end of the quarter. On your report card, on your credit slip, I'll give you 3 credits. Okay? Because I got to round up to the nearest whole number or to the nearest half. So you're closer to 3 rather than 3.5. So on your credit slip, you'll get a D minus and 3 credits, which means you'll have to take the same class for 2 more credits later in some other quarter. And you're stalling and you're prolonging your stay here at Park West prior to you graduating. So the moral of the story is be here every day and get your 80 stamps so you can get your 5 credits and move on. So to earn your credits or to figure out how many credits you have, you just take the number of stamps that you have and divide it by 16. And that'll tell you how many credits you have at any given point in the life of the classroom. Okay? Now, how do you lose stamps? I got 6 ways here of how to lose stamps. So remember, you want to get 2 stamps per day, right? 2 stamps per day. How do you lose stamps? Let's say you want to take Mungia over and over again and you don't want to get your 5 credits. That's a bad joke, but let's say some of you are like that. How do you lose stamps? Let's go over that really quick. One way to lose stamps, by the way, you have a picture of a crybaby here, which is some of you, no offense, but some of you are crybabies and need to grow up. But let's talk about ways to lose stamps. The first way to lose a stamp is by being tardy. Less than a half hour. So if you're tardy and you're less than a half hour tardy, you'll only receive 1 stamp, which is the second one, your productivity stamp, because you won't get the first one. So you lose a stamp, obviously. Let's say you're tardy more than a half hour. Well, you lose both stamps for the day. Okay. How about smartphone abuse? I'm gonna put smartphone abuse on hold. I'll come back to this one. So again, I'm talking about how to lose productive hours, which is your stamps. How do you lose them? So I'm going to come back to smartphone abuse shortly. Let's go on to the next one. Non-productivity. Of course, if you're not being productive, you're not going to get your second stamp. Let's say you come in and you're doing your warm-up and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You start your warm-up, you're on time, you get your first stamp. But for the rest of the period, if you're not productive or you keep lagging, you keep talking, you keep stalling, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you just lose that second stamp. So you'll only receive 1 stamp for the day. You lose a stamp but only receive 1 because you're there for the warm-up. This is the biggest pet peeve of mine. If there's one thing I can't stand, there's one thing that gets on my nerves the most, and if there's one battle that I'll fight till the end, and it might get on a lot of your nerves, it's talking when I have the floor, talking when I'm talking. I don't talk the whole class, but you need to give me the respect as your authority figure and as your teacher. You need to give me the floor when I have the floor. That is more important than the mathematics that I teach. That's more important than any content I teach or deliver, is the capacity and the ability on your part to give me the attention and the respect and the floor when I have the floor. So if you keep talking when I'm talking, I warn you a few times, you're going to lose your stamp for the day. I don't care how productive you are, you're not giving the respect I deserve.